The Catholic Campaign for Human Development, the official domestic anti-poverty program of the U.S. bishops, has been under heavy scrutiny ever since its founding. For over 50 years now, the CCHD has denied and dismissed allegations that the agency is financing organizations pushing an agenda centered on abortion, contraception, and other gravely immoral agendas. For 15 years, I have personally investigated CCHD grants, met with officials from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, communicated with bishops, met with bishops, and provided thousands of pages of documentation proving that the CCHD is funding the enemies of the cross of Christ. Last December, the CCHD finally released 3 years of grants lists that it withheld during our ongoing investigations. Now we're going to reveal what we found, coming up on this special report from the Lepanto Institute. The Campaign for Human Development was founded in 1970, and before its first anniversary, it faced accusations of funding groups involved in population control. John Henry Norton, National Secretary of the Leading Families of America, wrote to Pope Paul VI in October 1971, claiming to have evidence that the CHD funded 20 to 30 organizations promoting abortion and birth control. He then warned bishops across the country, triggering both an internal investigation and a public response from the bishops overseeing the campaign. As expected, the bishops denied the charges, cleared the accused organizations, and dismissed Norton's warnings as an attack on the collection. And for the next 50 years, the pattern remained the same. Evidence surfaces showing Catholic funds supporting organizations that promote evil ideologies. The CCHD points to its rigorous vetting process, claims it never funds groups opposing church teaching, and labels every report against its grantees as another attack. Lather, rinse, repeat. But last year, something happened that may signal the final bell for the CCHD. In March, longtime executive director Ralph McLeod resigned suddenly amid rumors of fiscal mismanagement that nearly collapsed the program. And as I mentioned earlier, the CCHD finally released the last 3 years of grants lists in December. So, our team at the Lepanto Institute rolled up our sleeves and went to work, examining all 211 grantees on those lists. Here's what we found. Of the 211 organizations receiving CCHD grants, 66 grantees, that's 31%, are involved in the promotion of abortion, contraception, LGBT ideologies, Marxism, and even occult practices. Out of a total of $18,235,100 in grants to all 211 CCHD-funded organizations, $5,788,600, which is 32%, went to those 66 bad organizations. Over the next few weeks, we'll be publishing reports on some of the more egregious violations. Today, we'll begin with the United Workers Association. UWA has received CCHD grants since at least 2004, the earliest year available in public financial records. Over that time, it has collected 16 grants totaling $760,000, including the recent $25,000 grant that it received for the 2024-2025 grant cycle. I personally investigated UWA back in 2011 and even sat down with John Carr and Ralph McLeod, showing them what we found. At that time, UWA signed on with Equality Maryland to oppose any amendment to the Maryland Constitution that would ban so-called same-sex marriage. Carr and McLeod assured me that they spoke with UWA and claimed that it was all a mistake, that an unauthorized low-level employee had signed the organization's name onto the campaign. That example didn't sit well, so I dug deeper and found UWA's board meeting minutes from August of 2006, which included a proposed plan for 2007 to begin alliance building with Equality Maryland. This time, we discovered that UWA operates two proxy organizations of its own creation that openly promote abortion, contraception, Planned Parenthood funding, and LGBT ideology, including taxpayer-funded sex change procedures. In fact, UWA recently complained that Medicaid cuts would eliminate gender-affirming care, meaning hormone treatments and surgical sex change procedures. Here's their post from March, urging people to sign a letter opposing Medicaid cuts that would include gender-affirming care. That alone should disqualify any organization from receiving church funds, and in UWA's case, funding for UWA should have ended long ago. During our investigation, we found on UWA's IRS Form 990 that it provided funds to an organization called Put People First Pennsylvania. From 2020 to 2022, UWA has provided $584,000 to PPF. Each of the 990s provide the same language about the grants, indicating that PPF-PA is engaging in grassroots organizing and outreach across the state of Pennsylvania through their Healthcare is a Human Right campaign to demand universal quality healthcare for all. It turns out that UWA is the fiscal sponsor for PPF, as its own end-of-the-year fundraising campaign for 2024 clearly states, quote, "Checks can be made out to our fiscal sponsor, United Workers, with Put People First PA in the subject line. Send checks to United Workers, P.O. Box, etc." In short, PPF, which UWA created in 2012, is a proxy organization of UWA, and PPF is radically pro-abortion and pro-trans. On 1 October 2016, PPF-PA posted on X its commitment to fight for, quote, reproductive justice, a deceptive euphemism that always includes abortion and birth control. In fact, the next summer, PPF-PA marched in support of Planned Parenthood, calling for reproductive justice. At the same event, one of PPF-PA's own members stood up to speak in support of Planned Parenthood. On 22 September 2017, PPF-PA posted an article attempting to make a Christian case for being an abortionist. On 30 December 2020, PPF-PA posted an article celebrating the decriminalization of abortion in Argentina. In addition to its support for abortion, this puppet organization of UWA actively and firmly promotes trans ideologies and agendas, including open support for publicly funded sex change surgeries. On 11 June 2023, PPF-PA co-hosted an event with the Kairos Center titled Season of Jubilee, Trans Healthcare is a Human Right. The description of the event indicates that queer members of PPF-PA and an organization called the Nonviolent Medicaid Army, of which UWA is also a member, are speakers giving testimony that, quote, gender-affirming and sexual health care are a part of what we all deserve in God's justice. On 21 July 2016, PPF-PA celebrated the inclusion of sex change surgeries as part of healthcare coverage. On 19 June 2023, PPF-PA celebrated how Medicaid helped someone obtain a sex change operation. On 11 August 2014, PPF-PA tabled at an LGBT pride event showing pictures of their members in front of trans flags and children subjected to rainbow paraphernalia. Remember, UWA is the fiscal sponsor for PPF-PA and has funneled at least $500,000 to this group. But this isn't the only proxy organization UWA runs from behind the scenes. In 2012, UWA co-founded an organization called Healthcare is a Human Right Maryland. This is indicated on UWA's history page, a 2012 article about the launch of the campaign, and is stated in UWA's Give Freely profile, uploaded this year, wherein it states, quote, their primary focus is on advocating for universal quality healthcare for all through their Healthcare is a Human Right campaign. Let's take a quick look at what this campaign, co-founded by UWA, promotes. On January 23, 2019, Healthcare is a Human Right Maryland posted an article from the communist-run publication Jacobin advocating for abortion to be covered under Medicare as a right. On 7 September 2018, HHR Maryland said that abortion rights are human rights. On 19 March 2019, HHR Maryland claimed that banning abortion is unconstitutional. On 8 February 2019, HHR Maryland called abortion coverage in the Medicare for All bills a massive victory. It further declared that it must be bold and unapologetic in demanding full reproductive health care as a human right. On 2 January 2018, HHR Maryland called for guarantees for abortion and gender-affirming care to be included in Medicare. On 18 January 2018, HHR Maryland declared that trans rights are human rights and lauded a bill that would overturn the Hyde Amendment, which bans federal funding for abortions. More information about the United Workers Association can be found in our full report on the website, link in the description. But the bottom line is this. For over 50 years, the Catholic Campaign for Human Development has funneled hundreds of millions of dollars into the hands of the enemies of the cross of Christ. Faithful Catholics have sounded the alarm since the very first year of CCHD's existence, yet the Judases holding the coin purse have worked hard to hide this from Catholics in the pews, priests, bishops, and even the Pope himself. It's gone on long enough. Send this report to your bishop and ask him to withdraw publicly from the CCHD collection. Then urge him to call on the USCCB to shut it down altogether. And when you do, present him with a spiritual bouquet of prayers, penances, and sacrifices offered on his behalf, asking Our Lady to give him the grace and to act with courage. For the Lepanto Institute, I'm Michael Hitchborn.